Welcome to Mostly Minutia. I'm Colleen Lindl, and this is episode 43, Flight Attendant to Steamfitter. This episode is on my dearest cousin, Miss Emily Lindl. We recorded this episode at the beginning of the new year, so January 1st, 2018. Perhaps some of you are wondering, why did I wait so long to put this episode out? I don't know. This episode did not want to be put out until now. Some of these episodes have their own birthing time, and I have to wait on them. So anyway, for 8 years and for most of her 20s, Emily was a flight attendant with a fantastic airline called Midwest. And a few reasons why this airline was fantastic. They served their meals on china with real cutlery, and their seats were made out of leather. Midwest was out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they'd been flying since the early 80s. And Emily is pretty sure today that if they were still flying today, she'd still be working for them because she loved working for them and she loved the people she worked with. Unfortunately, Midwest went out of business, and when Emily was laid off from Midwest, she found herself smack dab at the beginning of the career pool, and she decided to take a life and career planning class. And it was in this class that she was reminded that her skill set did not just end at customer service, but rather it was one of several skills in her skill palette. Mathematics was another skill. Emily is the daughter of a machinist, and she comes from a long line of engineers. Not only did Emily remember she was good at math, but she also enjoyed doing math, and she was also highly skilled in the realm of analytical thought. She could easily come up with efficient solutions to problems. And eventually, through this class, Emily was drawn to the occupation of welding. Why did Emily want to weld? Well, one thing about Emily that I haven't explained yet, during Emily's flight attendant career and during her growing up as well, Emily enjoyed going on walks. Some of her walks meandered through more industrial areas, and inevitably, there'd always be abandoned buildings. And Emily is a bit of a curious kitty. She's also a bit of an urban explorer, and she enjoyed very much going into these abandoned spaces and seeing how things work. For instance, if there had been a fire in a building, she enjoyed seeing how that fire affects a room. She prided herself on seeing the underbelly of some of these buildings, and part of the perk of welding and steam fitting is seeing the inner depths of these hidden spaces. So when welding came up as a possible occupation, she thought, maybe I could be a good welder. And then on second thought, she thought, why wouldn't I be a good welder? So at the end of the life and career planning class, Emily decided to go to welding school. And while in welding school, Emily's teacher suggested she apply for the steam fitting apprenticeship. She applied, but because of the recession, the apprenticeship program was on hold for 3 years. And because Emily had been a flight attendant for so long, and to bide time until the apprenticeship program reopened, Emily got a flight attendant position with Ryan International, this time flying international charter flights, in which she was able to go to places like Germany and do more urban exploring. After a year of flying with Ryan International and still biding time in anticipation of her apprenticeship program, Emily was able to get a welding fabrication job to continue her education. And then, in August of 2011, the Steamfitter's apprenticeship reopened. Emily jumped back in, and just to explain, the 5-year apprenticeship meant Emily basically had to sign her life away. And so yes, she was learning on the job, but the condition was she had to accept all the work they gave her, which meant no more flying, no more vacations, no more going the distance to visit friends and relatives. Emily was grounded. And also a side note, during her 5-year apprenticeship, Emily did not work with a single female steamfitter, not one. It wasn't until she became a journeyman that she worked with a female steamfitter, or as Emily likes to call them, lady fitters. And she didn't work with just one, she worked with 5. And she considers it true to phrase that when it rains, it pours. In May of 2017, Emily earned her journeyman status, which means she is now an official steamfitter. She is able to work wherever she would like in the entire world, and whenever she would like. And the woman has a bucket list. First up, she has her eye on Antarctica and is heavily debating signing on for 6 months. Emily is part of the Steamfitters Union Local 601. She currently resides in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And when I asked Emily what a steamfitter does, she said, A steamfitter works on and installs heating, cooling, gas, and process piping. Their main goal is to make sure that whatever flows through the pipes in a building keeps on flowing. She works with pipe made of stainless steel, carbon steel, copper, brass, PVC, cpvc, polypropylene, and the list keeps going. She knows how to cut all these materials and bond them together. Emily says her favorite material to work with is copper, and her favorite offset to design is a 45-degree offset, which helps with what's known as the pressure drop. Lastly, Emily's one rule with steam fitting is she must have her nails done. She says she can look like a boy all day long. As long as her nails are done, she feels better. One more note. I'm guessing there are some of you saying, where the heck does the term steam fitter come from anyway? Way back in the day, when steam boilers were first used, explosions were consistently happening due to improper piping and regulating. The government stepped in and began to regulate, and the steam fitter was born. Well, isn't that dangerous? Yes, it is extremely dangerous, and it's extremely badass. Here's Emily.
I'm the oldest on the Lindl side, the oldest grandchild. Mm-hmm. When I knew that I didn't want to go to college, it was the most frightening thing to have to admit to my grandma.
Yeah, so you and I are cousins, just so that the listener understands. Yes. Emily and I are what we call twin cousins. We are about 7 months apart from each other, and our grandmother is a 100% Albanian woman. She was born here to immigrants. Our great grandparents fled Albania in the 1920s, and Emily is the oldest of 16 grandchildren. Is that correct? 17?
Something like that. I always say 15 for both sides because then you can...
Are you the oldest on your mom's side as well?
I'm not. I'm the second oldest because my cousin Lynn is like 9 years older than me. And so she didn't have any twin cousins.
That's hard.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I try to be as close to a twin cousin as I can.
You're so supportive.
Even though her brother is like actually my age. So.
Is that Steven?
Yeah.
Steven's your twin cousin.
Yeah, and both of my twin cousins have red hair.
Aw, you're so cushioned and loved with fire. Yeah, and I'm on my mom's side of the family, I'm the oldest of 16, and then on my dad's side, Emily's I'm the second in command, I guess.
We share it.
No, we don't.
So
you had to tell grandma that
first
and
grandchild.
how did you discover that you didn't want to go to college?
I know this will sound really dumb, but I can't stand writing papers. If that was what it meant for me to succeed in life, then I would have to be a failure because I strongly dislike it.
What is it that you don't like about it? Is it an essay writing, or do you mean like papers?
Well, I don't even know if I've ever written a paper. I mean, we wrote long things in high school, but I just hated it. There's nothing about that process that I enjoy, except for maybe the research, but I don't like relaying anything that I've learned. I just don't like it. So I knew, at that point I didn't want to go to college, and I just was at grandma's house one day and I told her that. And her advice was, well, then you need to get a job that is a career. And she also suggested that I try to be a flight attendant for Midwest Airlines.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I applied. I did the interview and everything, and they didn't take me.
Wait, with Midwest?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So you had to wait a year. So I waited another year, and then I applied with them, and that's when I got it.
Oh my gosh. So,
yeah.
And also Midwest Express, it used to be a great airline. Their theme was, or their slogan was, what was it?
The best care in the air.
The best care in the air. And Emily, why was it the best care in the air?
Because they had the best people working for them. And I loved working with all of them because I had skills to learn when I started there. And I had such great examples. They were just the most calm, pleasant women I've ever seen. And, later on, that did come into my feeling of loss. Because when you're 30 and you've worked with the best coworkers that you'll ever work with your entire life. And I know that, like, there's no way I could ever meet better people than them. So that's a...
Yeah, we're going right into tearjerkers.
Yeah.
But that airline was interesting because they had like leather seats, right? Didn't they have like the nicest seats? And you guys served like glasses, actual glasses.
So when I started,
silverware.
We had the china. We had a lunch service on flights that were an hour and 15 minutes. Lunch plus cookies.
And the cookies they didn't just come in a package. They were
freshly baked on the plane. And so it was special. And their prices were comparable to other airlines. So you could get nothing, or you could get free champagne in the morning, free wine on the afternoon and evening flights. So you learn how to pour red wine in turbulence, which is kind of a special skill to have. And like everyone's like, they love you because you're giving them a really pleasant day. And then the other good thing was all the flights were direct, like either out of Milwaukee, Omaha, or Kansas City were the three bases at different times. So everything worked out really, really nice. I learned from the best people that I could learn from. I was providing a service that the passengers loved, which is like, if they're happy, you've got good days every day. Even if you're delayed, they're not mad to be there, And this was another thing. They had, like, when you are on an airplane, they have quick turns now where you get all the passengers off, you clean it real quick, and then you get all the passengers on again. And it might be a 30-minute turn. Midwest, they had hour turns. So if you were late getting in, by the time that plane had to leave, you were on time again. Or if you were running 2 hours late, you throughout the day, you could make that time up. It was amazing. I mean, obviously airlines can't afford to do that anymore. They need those flights in the air. But that was just another special thing. Like, you wonder why everything works out all the time. Well, there's a lot of little reasons why everything always worked out.
Wow. And so you said that you interviewed with them first, and they had turned you down. You waited a year and you went back. Do you know why they turned you down the first time?
Well, what I came to learn later, and I'm not mad about it at all, but it was just kind of arbitrary.
Yeah.
And I know the two ladies that I interviewed with, I still see them. They're some of the smiliest women that I know. And I'm smiley, but I had less experience than them, obviously. So that was the reason I was given. But I've since heard there wasn't anything particularly wrong about me. And if one person, if anybody knew me and said, hey, hire her, I would have been hired. So it that's just kind of how life is, where it's who you know. After that experience, like, if I know somebody I love is doing something and I happen to know someone, I'll just say something, because you never know if that'll make a difference or not.
But how did you decide to go back after a year and try again? Did they say you can try in a year or something?
Yeah, they said you can try in a year, and it took me twice to get my driver's license.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You didn't have your driver's license, right?
Yeah.
Or you didn't have it for a while, right? Till when?
Well...
Oh, wait, maybe I made that up.
No, I did wait. I was like probably 17, but...
So this is your MO.
I can't get upset about it, is what I'm saying. Like, if I fail the first time, that's my deal. So if I don't try again, then I'm truly failing, because then I don't get the chance again. But you kind of have to suck up the rejection a little bit and not take it personally.
That's brilliant. You're like, well, I did have to try twice for my driver's license, and I got that.
Yes.
So I'll try twice for this.
That's my curse.
Yeah. Like, well, this is starting to be a pattern with me.
Yeah.
So I can't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So it ended up being just a really great experience. I worked for them for 8 years.
As I remember, you told me that you now know your way around several cities because you flew so often. Like, you learned your way around New York, and
You feel like you live there because you do the same, like you're always at the same hotel. So you're always doing that commute into the city, or like, and so it was really important to learn the absolute cheapest way to do anything. So like I would never take a cab into Manhattan from LaGuardia Airport.
No, you wouldn't?
I can't. I can't spend that kind of money. Like there's nothing so urgent that I would have to be there, in a short period of time. I'd rather spend $7 and take the train, and I just enjoy that part of it. Or how to get from by the airport in Seattle, there was like a bus that you could take for $2. It was like the bus stop was right outside the hotel. You just had to figure it out. And same with San Antonio. You would think you were so far, but there's one bus that you had to take, and it was $2. So I'd give an hour of my time to save $20,
So in you having this job as a flight attendant, did you feel like it taught you personally about how you travel? Because I remember you would have like doubles of things, and you would have one bag that was packed, continuously packed and ready to go.
Yeah. And I'd have those same clothes, and those were the clothes I would wash and put right back in there. But yeah, there's definitely like just certain, like I won't go on a trip without Excedrin migraine. I won't leave my house without some of that in my purse or somewhere, because it's just not a feeling I'm willing to tolerate for more than a brief period of time. Just issues that when you're traveling, it's like, nope, not putting up with that, not putting up with that.
Yeah.
Traveling overseas now, you've got all of your medication and toiletries in your carry-on bag, because if they lose your rollerboard, you keep an extra pair of underwear in that bag with you and a pair of socks, and you're good for at least a day.
Yeah, you're very good at streamlining, making it really simplified.
Yeah, well, there's stuff that is going to ruin your day more than others. And if you know what those things are, it's pretty easy to avoid. The same strategy goes for buying tickets online. You're not going to buy a cheap ticket with a 20-minute layover in the city you're going to. That's setting yourself up for failure. Or 45-minute or an hour. If I'm going through O'Hare more than 2 hours, and I'm always delayed by more than an hour, but I'm also not panicking on whatever end. It's like a 20-minute flight from Milwaukee, but you can get there like an hour and a half late.
Yeah, so like personalities of these airports now.
Yeah, and it's a system. There was this article that I read once that it was like about hospitals and how like they kept making really basic mistakes that ended up impacting someone's life, So they looked back and they're like, wow, hospitals are really complex systems, and so is flying. And when they started making complex airplanes, they noticed that pilots were making basic mistakes, so they gave them a checklist. And now they do this checklist every time. It's totally like just ordinary stuff, but once they check it, they're okay with that. It's not going to jump out at them later because they don't encounter it often. And, you're participating in this tremendously complex system. At any point in it, it can all fall apart. So if you walk in at the beginning of the day going, if I make it to my destination, I don't care about on time. If I make it there today, that's a good day, and then because you might be an hour late, you might not. You could be an hour late one place and you make it up in the air,
What is your favorite city that you would fly to?
So I didn't have a favorite city. I loved all of them. I never went somewhere where I was like, I wish I hadn't gone there. I loved all of them, but I have to say my top 3 were New York, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. And it was just for walking food, just the way that the walks could meander, so like Philly has those quadrants and it's actually pretty big, and you'll hit places where you're like, whoa, I'm not going to walk over here again, but you wander through, and if there's a spot that you really enjoy, I would take a note so that next time I would know, like, hey, if I'm on that street, stay on it for a little while,
Yeah. I really liked hearing about Detroit because I had never been to Detroit. I didn't know anything about it really. And you came back from a flight and you were like, I like going to Detroit. You told me all about exploring that place and how big these homes are. You were fascinated by it.
Well, so the biggest, I'm just going to change it just for a second, but the biggest homes that I ever saw in the whole country were in Maine.
Really?
Yes. They would not end. Like, they would have their whole front, which was a total house, and then it would get a little bit tinier and go back, and then a little bit tinier and go back. And they were so big. That was exciting, to just see that. That was actually a special charter where we took the Badger women's hockey team to Bangor, Maine, and we stayed for 4 days until they were coming back.
Wow.
It was incredible. So that
Did you say hi to
special.
Stephen King?
We walked past his house.
Oh man, wow. Is his house like that?
His house has a wrought iron fence in front of it, and it's got spiders and scary things in the wrought iron. And it's cool. It looks just as neat as all the other houses there. They're just huge, But Detroit, because one of the charming things that I liked about Milwaukee before it started getting super built up were these abandoned spaces. There were like buildings that were vacant. Cream City brick buildings, 5 stories tall, that were completely abandoned. And I just loved seeing what was inside and just like, oh, there was a fire there. Wow. Just looking at what a fire does to a room, and I just always felt really fortunate when you'd find them. And then Detroit was like abandoned factory central. I mean, it was such an industrial city, and there was so much stuff that was vacant, and you're just like, whoa. I mean, the factories were huge. and it's all closed, and I mean, I don't know, it was just incredible to me.
And would you go inside of some of those structures, or would you?
I would never break in. If there was a way to get in, I would use that way. But I would never like break a lock or a window or something like that.
Yeah. It's weird. It's like the lost city of Atlantis. Industrial.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I mean, I loved all the Art Deco downtown that they had. I mean, when that city was growing, what a great time to grow. And it's still interesting. I haven't been there since before the recession, but it's always changing. What they're doing now, making gardens and things like that. I hope that the people that have lived there get to stay there and help it grow into something different,
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't turn into condos or something.
Yeah.
The people that are there make it important.
You also had flown charter flights, but I know that Midwest Express went out of business at one point.
So there was like a year. So when Midwest was done for me, because it still was happening for another year, and then within that year, everybody was gone.
Okay, so the laying off and the
I was the first wave.
Okay,
and I had been there for 8 years.
Wow.
So yeah, they laid me off, and when they did, they said that since my job was technically outsourced, I qualified for school money. And the amount of money that they gave, like you look at what you could go to school for, and it was definitely a technical college amount of money. And so I kind of started looking at what you could go into. And my really good friend Val and I took a life and career planning class.
And Val she was a flight attendant as well.
Yeah, we were both flight attendants, and we had fun when we'd work together. She saw it as performance art. So that made it really fun, you know, like that's what she was doing the second she got on the plane. And when we were flying together, I would play too. So it was just really funny. We both took a life and career planning class. And just for an example, it was like 5 days that you would go. Mm-hmm. And every day we would go in together and she would sit somewhere else. Just to throw everybody off and like, what are you going to do? You know, I mean, it was just funny. So we took that class and, you know, I'd been doing customer service for so long. Yeah. And I was reminded that like, I like math and I'm good at math. So it made me think like, oh, okay, so maybe I don't want to work with people necessarily. Maybe I want a skill that I will possess whether my company goes out of business or not.
Yeah, like something that you own.
Right.
Like you've acquired it.
Right. Because if you fly, you could fly for 25 years and when you lose your job, you start at the very bottom, pay-wise too, at another airline. So unless you're like married... to me, that's not a very practical, you know, decision to make. Yeah. For me. Mm-hmm. There's lots of people that did make that decision because they really loved flying. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I invested a lot of time in this. Mm-hmm. I have what I have, but I can't take it anywhere. So I'm keeping it. Mm-hmm. It's mine.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were feeling during that whole time, that whole year that the company was going out of business and realizing all of a sudden that you have to make this total change. And
initially, I felt like every city I went to was a friend and I had lost a friend. You know, because you just don't know when you'll see them again. But basically, what I was doing at that time, if I got advice from anyone, I ran with it. And I did everything ASAP. I never felt like a go-getter. I wouldn't characterize myself like that because I feel like I procrastinate all the time. But apparently, everyone else procrastinates way more than me. So if I put something off for a day or two, other people put it off for a month, you know? And my dad has a very absurd sense of humor. So from the time that I started flying, he would always say to me, I am so disappointed that you are not a scuba welder. I mean, basically, if he says something, you have to like just think that he's saying the opposite of that. But I mean, when he said that, I kind of like looked into scuba welding just a little. And then like years later, my dad is like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have told you that because people die doing that.
I mean, why did he say that in the first place?
Because it was... You know? I'm not going to say it's stupid, but yeah, it's like just random.
Yeah. And so random, so niche. Like, I'm
like,
a flight
clearly
attendant.
He's not serious.
Well, I'm so disappointed that you didn't become a scuba welder.
Yeah. I ruined his dreams for me.
Yeah.
So I did the whole life and career planning class. And I'm looking at the trade stuff and they had welder in there. And I had never welded in my life, but I'm like, why wouldn't I be a good welder? You know, or why couldn't I be a good welder? Then it was like looking at different tech colleges, and I looked at Gateway in Kenosha, and Grandma used to work at the library there, so it kind of stuck out a little. But I went there and they had a self-paced program. And I thought, well, why wouldn't I want to do it at my own pace? Like, that sounds pretty cool. So I went and talked to the teacher, and his name is Mark Utek. And I told him my history and stuff, and he's like, well, you should try to be a steamfitter. And when he told me that, I thought he was telling me that I shouldn't weld at all, which is how little understanding I had of anything. But I listened to him, and he had a sheet of paper that said when they have these informational meetings at the hall. So I went. Totally embarrassing because I was like dressed in a suit and everybody else went there like after work. So it was like, not only did I just stand out because I'm a girl, but I'm also really dressed up, you know, because I thought I was like interviewing or something. I didn't know what. I was used to walking into a situation and presenting yourself, you know. So I got myself on the list. I was taking the tests at METC to get placement and stuff. And when I started school in January at Gateway, I'm like, hey, Mark, I went to the hall. I'm starting that ball rolling. And he looked at me and he looked like, wow, she followed through. Like, because I guess most people don't. I don't know. I mean, I was interested in it.
Students never listen to me. She's an excellent student.
So, and this would also be, I fail things the first time. I also have to wait an insane amount of time in order to accomplish what I'm just setting out to do. So when I started at Midwest Airlines, when you're on reserve, you're on call. I was on call for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. They owned me. And then so when I signed up to be a fitter, they didn't take apprentices for 2 years because of the recession.
Wow.
Which is a crazy amount of time to wait.
So this is like 2008? 2000, yeah. Okay.
And I was signing up to be owned by them. And it was a 5-year ownership. And I'm like, I've done this before. I can do this. So that's kind of, like when you think like, if I knew I would have to put my life on hold for 4 years, maybe it wouldn't have seemed as enticing, I guess. But, I was in it. I didn't hate it. Apparently I can be owned and it doesn't affect my life too much. So I was in school for that first year. And then the second year I needed to get a job. My good friend Ryan got me a job. No one's ever done this for me in my life. He got me a job with Ryan International, which was a charter company. He sent him my resume and then I got an interview from it.
Wow. So you took this welding class.
3 semesters.
And then you had to get this job.
I needed a job right away.
Okay.
And that one just happened like that. And that's where I learned, that yes, the crews that I flew with at Midwest were the best.
Wow.
I'm not saying that Ryan was bad by any means, but at Midwest, we didn't have lead flight attendants. So everyone kind of had an equal sense of responsibility. No one was like, well, that's your job type thing.
Right.
And at Ryan, it was like there was one lead and maybe 9 flight attendants or something. But the crews were awesome. They were all used to being away from home. You were away from home for 18 days and then you were home for 10. There were walkers that flew. So if I ever saw their name on the overnight thing, I'd call them and let them know I was there. And then we would go walking, serious walking.
What do you mean by walkers? You mean like people that you knew who enjoyed walking would be on the flight and you guys would connect when you...
Yeah, they could be on a different crew.
Okay.
So you would just see that they were at the hotel and you're like, hey, I'm here. I just got in. When do you have to go?
Yeah.
And I mean, you could just... I mean, I went on a lot of great long and that was one of the things I learned about Germany is you can take the streets, you can walk on the streets, but they also have walking paths that are completely removed from the streets and will get you pretty much where you want to go.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
Away from traffic and everything.
It's so thoughtful and considerate and so efficient.
Right. And pleasant. Who wants to be afraid of getting hit by a car?
Yeah. So can you name off some of the countries that you went to in that, you said that it was just a year that you were doing
It was
this?
just a year. And that was one of the other really neat things about working with all these people. Some of them had been doing it for 12 years. They had been to so many places. So I got all these places checked off in 1 year. But they would have old overnights in Iceland.
Wow.
So there's a lot of people that had gone to Iceland and I never got to go there. But I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. I wish I had a layover there. Sounds beautiful. But we spent a ton of time in Germany just because that was the starting point for overseas flights. We would be in Leipzig and then sometimes you'd be in near Ramstein. So the place that we'd stay was called Kaiserslautern. And they had this really big arena there for soccer stuff. So that was what the town was known for, And we were at the top of this hill there. And you could take the streets down or you could find the walking path and get all the way down to the city. It was just a smaller city, but had stuff. There was stuff to see. And I took a little bit of German in high school. And you learn how little language you actually have to know in order to get by. And, so there's like some basic things that, like, if I'm going somewhere, I'll learn thank you, good morning, and I would like, and then you can point. And then when you start getting more into it, like colors are useful because you can identify things with color, if you want something.
Yeah.
And I was just very surprised how little German I needed to know.
You're like, I'm fluent.
Yeah, exactly.
With just
for what I'm doing. As long as you don't talk to me in German, we're good.
So just switching. So you said you got a welding job.
So this was through a friend of a friend. He was welding there. And my friend told him that I was looking for a job. And he's like, yeah, just have her come out. So I pulled into that driveway. And I don't want to call it a panic attack because it wasn't that extreme. But I'm in my car going, I can't do this right now. I can't do this. So I called my dad. Like, Dad, I'm in the parking lot and I'm really scared and I don't know what to do. And he's like, just walk through the garage door like you belong there and talk to the first person you see. Because you don't go into an office. You go right into the shop. Which for some reason was terribly intimidating to me.
Yeah.
So he talked me through it, thank God.
Was it because you felt like you were walking in, like everybody else is so experienced and knows everything, and that's why you were feeling intimidated by it? Or what was it exactly?
No, it was just going into a strange place. They're going to notice me the second I walk in there. And I've got to like go, hey, is Dave here? I don't remember who I was looking for, but you just have to have some confidence about it. And I just was like totally faking that confidence. Yeah. Because you're not telling them this is my first welding job. And to this day, the hardest day on any job that you start is that first day. As you know, right?
Yeah.
You have different jobs all the time too. And it never changes. It's always kind of stressful no matter what.
You said before that when I asked you before we started recording, I said, why did you choose to go into welding? And you said it was the most arbitrary decision. And
yeah,
will you share that with us? And
well, it was a combination of the scuba welding comment. And also I was like looking at what you could take in the trades. And for me, what always made me feel feminine was having my nails done. And I just thought, well, I could look like a boy all day long, but if I have my nails done, I'll feel better. And you're wearing welding gloves when you're welding. So your nails are basically protected. So you can have a weld coat on and a hood and still have some femininity about you.
And your nails are immaculate.
Well, thank you. This is a lovely color that you gifted me for Christmas. So I appreciate it. It looks nice.
It's Essie.
Fifth Avenue.
So you wanted to have nice fingernails.
I could look like a boy all day long. As long as I know my nails are done, I don't care.
So when you embarked on this journey of becoming a welder, because it was quite a number of years before you became a journeyman.
I was laid off when I was 30, and I'm 39 right now. It took a decade to rebuild a career, and I'm right at the start of like the good part.
And can you explain why it takes so long for somebody to become a journeyman? Because this program, it's like you spend 5 years as an apprentice. And so before that, so 30, I guess you...
So 32 was how old I was when I was brought on as a pre-apprentice. And then I was indentured, I think, when I was 33. So then you just then it's year after year of your life going away.
And it's not like you're not just showing up to a job and learning on the job. You are also taking classes at the same time. Like an apprenticeship is so involved. Yeah.
On the first year, you take so many night classes. It's kind of crazy. it was difficult for me to just know like, okay, I'm leaving my house at 5 a.m. and I won't get back until 8 o'clock at night, and I'm just going all day long. First time in my life that I ever started like being able to fall asleep in class if I wasn't careful. I never did that in high school or anything. And this, like, I would have like my stuff that would keep me awake in class. So
like, what do you mean? You like energy drinks or something?
Yeah, I would. Yes, I would have 5-hour energy. Works really good because it will give you 5 hours of energy. But if you want to fall asleep after 3, you can. So that was like the magic potion. And all that I knew was that I wasn't going to quit. Like that's the only thing. Anybody could try to get rid of me, but I'm not quitting. Like that was my attitude.
But the field that you work in it's majorly male dominated.
Yes.
It was a while before you even met another female steamfitter.
Yes. One of the suggestions that I made, because it ended up being one of the more important aspects that helped me through the apprenticeship, I suggested that when you're a girl apprentice, that they put you in touch with a female journeyman right away. All of the girls care, and they know what you're going through. And they're willing to give their time to help you. You can't even understand how important that was. Just to have one person that you can trust. And that's what I needed. I needed one person I could trust, and I didn't have that for 2 years.
And what kinds of things, if you could just share, because I know all about like the things that you've encountered along the way, but like in those first 2 years of your apprenticeship, what was the treatment like? And I know there were people that helped you. There are some really good guys that helped you. And
when I was treated fairly, it let me know just how unfairly I had been treated also. You walk in thinking the apprenticeship is going to be tough. And then people are tough on me. I'm thinking, oh, well, they're tough on everybody. And then you start to see that they treat other people differently and they're being tough on you. And I'd never been treated differently because I was a woman before.
And so you really felt you were.
I knew I was. And when you first, when you realize that that's what's going on, it's very upsetting because you've never been put into an other group before. And now I'm other. And when that's happening, there actually isn't anything that you can do to get in. That won't change. Your surroundings have to change. Then you've got a chance. And there were people, like I would get reports and they would grade me really, really low. And they would say, well, that's because I'm comparing you to what a journeyman would do. Then there'd be other people that were fair to me and good to work with. And they'd give me good grades. And they're like, you're doing fine. And then I'm like, oh, so when I feel like an idiot because I've done something, like that's normal. And they're like, yeah, everybody does that. And I started to see it too as I went through my apprenticeship. When I would be a fourth year, I'd be helping first years. They would make the exact same mistakes that I would make, but I didn't make them feel like they didn't know anything because of it. And I would tell them that. I would say, I did this exact same thing. They're all human mistakes. And I think it's charming when I realize that my brain works similarly to someone else, that we both don't know the same thing at a certain time. So that's when you kind of know, like, wow, everybody does that, and I was made to feel like an idiot about it. That's not right. You know what I mean? But it kept happening less and less, and I would say that by the third year, I knew enough to kind of be useful on a crew, and I was working with people that believed that I could do things. And so I was given more responsibility and I could work by myself. And working by myself was a huge change. And it was a change for the better for me because I knew that I could do it. I'm a good worker. Like no matter what I don't know, I'm busy working on stuff that I don't know about a lot. Like it's not like I'm wandering off. I'm not on my phone. I don't put 30 minutes in and take a 10-minute break. You know, I don't talk. Like, I'll visit with someone if I'm passing them, but I don't talk. I started to notice, like, yeah, you know, if someone treats me like I'm not a good worker, then I know that that's their problem. But now that I'm a journeyman, I can just say, I got to get a different job.
And you can say that to your union now?
Yeah.
You can.
Whereas with an apprentice, it's a rule that you cannot turn down work.
Okay.
So you would work with whoever you were with.
Okay. Wow. Can you talk about, I know you've been on a lot of different kinds of jobs, but the job that I really liked hearing about was when you were working in like the underbelly of, was it Brewing or something? I love when you tell this story because it was like, because this is another form of your exploration. You got to go into some of these rooms.
I've been a fan my whole life, and now I get paid to see the basement of these buildings
that nobody ever goes, like.
Yes.
So can you explain like what you saw in there? And yeah, because you're at the brewery.
Yeah, it's huge. And they've got all these different buildings, and there's all these different tunnels that get to different buildings. So there's like, you know, you could go out the door, walk across the street, go in through the door, or you can walk through the tunnel under the street and then get back into the building. It was just something that you don't get to see often. Yeah, there was this one building called F House. And F is for favorite for me because it was my favorite house. And so you could get to it if you're like at the gates to the brewery. On the south side of the road, there's a building on the east. And if you go through that door and keep walking, eventually you get into the hill. And you can get into this elevator that is a very creepy old elevator. And you take that up. It was like 3 or 4 floors. And you're at the first floor of F House.
Whoa.
You could also take stairs. So like you can look down this. I mean, it's just so creepy, you know?
Yeah.
So you rise through the earth up to the first floor of F House. So this building... It's 6 stories tall, and 1 and 2 kind of go together because the tanks in them are 2 stories tall.
Whoa.
And it's like, that's where tanks exist in the wild. Like,
yeah.
That's their home.
And how big are they?
I don't know how like wide they were, but 13 would fit for the length of the building. And then there's 13 on each side. It is very cold. And there's nothing else in there except these huge tanks that are 2 stories tall. So then you go up to 3 floor, same thing. Then you go up to 5, and that's where they used to like cook the beer. So they've got these really thick 2-story copper vats.
Whoa.
And there's 13 on each side. And the thing that was cool about it was you'd walk in and it is white tiled. Okay. So it just feels kind of laboratory like. And there's a staircase that goes up so that you're at the top of those tanks if you want to be. So the room is, 2 stories high. So the lights are on in this one. All right. Then you go up to 6. It's just like 5, but with no lights. So creepy. There's like cobwebs and stuff. Like I always thought if we could be a before and after set for a movie or something. Yeah. I mean, it's perfect.
Well, and you said because none of this whole building's not used anymore, right?
The tanks are.
Oh, the tanks
are. That's why it's so cold. But the copper vats are not. That's done in a different building now. I don't even know how much the tanks are worth. I mean, you look at it and you're like, wow. You're amazed. And I personally enjoyed it probably more than anybody else that's ever seen it. And I want to see it again. It was so cool.
Can you describe what your current job is right now? Like what your current project is that you're working on?
Well, it's a pretty high profile job.
Oh, you can't talk about it.
It's at the Bucks Arena, which is kind of cool because I used to, like it's the essence of my change, where I used to fly with the Bucks. Now I'm helping build their arena.
That's amazing.
So it does feel cool, a full circle, we'll say.
Yeah.
So,
but now that you're a journeyman, you can travel for work. You're not like linked to because for the apprenticeship you have to stay in one spot. But now you have the skill, so you can go anywhere. And I know you've threatened. No, I'm just kidding. You've talked a lot about going to Antarctica and signing on there for a season.
Yes.
Are you still thinking about doing that?
Oh, yeah. That's definitely on my list.
Okay.
And I would really like to just work on every continent. I think I would like Antarctica to be the starting point. And the thing about this career is you can do so many different things. At any point, I could find a niche that I love that I don't want to do anything else. But I still want to do that stuff, not in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I really would like to see how the trades are overseas. I'm just interested in that.
Do you think you'll ever fulfill your father's dream of scuba welding?
No. And I won't feel bad. I don't mind if I disappoint him to his deathbed.
Well, you've thought about it, though. I know you researched it before, but...
Yeah, but it is, like, you get paid a lot, and then there's also deep sea welders, and they get paid a lot. But it's only because you can die, like, easily, So, like, and it's your... Like, I work with equipment above ground, and there's stuff that happens with that equipment that's completely out of your control. Like something's not connected right, or the welder's not running right, or, all this stuff that can happen underwater. And if a mistake is made, it could be a really big one. And I mean... I trust myself to an extent, but not that much. Maybe when I was like 18, and my mind did not have as much stuff in it.
Yeah, leave that to the younger people.
Right.
How long will you be on the Bucks arena?
You never know.
Okay.
Whenever I'm done there, then, if my company has more stuff to do, maybe I'll go there, and if they don't, I'll just go somewhere else. And but I did want to touch, because I was saying what a hard time I was having in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was trying to help myself, but Grandma also sent me a card for my birthday saying that some nuns, and I don't remember the order, which is horrible, but these nuns outside of Chicago are praying for me. Like, and you're like, what? So, but I do believe that it helped, because not only did stuff get better, it got excellent. It got to the point where I don't even feel like I was cheated. I don't have any animosity or bitterness. And that really was what I wanted. I did not want to feel bitter about my experience. And the only way to feel that way is to have some incredibly positive experiences to help combat that. And it was beyond my wildest dreams. Like, you can't imagine the kindness and confidence building and just decent guys that I had started to work with. And you're like, I'm fine. It was the perfect gift at that time. And yeah. Well, I would just like to say that I'm always impressed by the resilience that people have. And I witnessed it in you when you were getting all beaten down in Chicago, and you took a chance and you moved to LA, and it was better than you could have thought, right? And it healed you to a certain extent, because you've had this career for quite a while now, successfully.
Yeah.
And all it took was taking a chance. And
yeah, and it was better right away.
Yeah?
Right away. For me. Yeah, it was. And I was thinking about this the other day, because I did after a while, I did start to finally work with some really nice people in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But the hazing that exists and the condescension
Mm-hmm.
and being passed over for jobs because I appear less confident, even though I know what I'm doing and I do a good job each time I do it. You know, it's you don't feel like you're an asset to a team.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me moving to ultimately making the decision to move to Los Angeles to teach me that I am an asset to a team and that I can bring my light wherever I please. And
not everyone has light.
No, it's strange though. I'm like, why do you want to live like this when you could be like pumped about, you know, what do we not have to be thankful for?
Yeah.
You know, that's like the confusing thing to me.
But like I was saying about always feeling like going to work,
Mm-hmm.
there's people that don't feel like going to work every day of their whole life.
Right.
And I'm like, that sounds horrible, but I think you want to not feel like going to work.
Yeah, you want to not have joy. So one thing for me is just winding down. I always want to feel chosen. That's like a huge need of mine, is to feel chosen. And the people that I currently work with and who call me for jobs, this was like maybe like in 2015, I think I started to transfer over into just really thinking about being chosen and like I want to be handpicked for a team.
Mm-hmm.
And now I work with people who all have picked me to be part of their team.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2016, I worked the whole year on MasterChef. And when I went in to interview, the guy that interviewed me, he said they had purposely gotten rid of people on the team who had been negative. And he's like, we only have positive people on our team now. And I just thought, wow, this is the first time in like 9 years of working in the camera department that somebody actually has said that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very good sign. I was like, I think I've finally arrived.
Yeah.
And that team of people thrives off of helping each other.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah, it's like
everybody wins.
Everybody wins. And why not accept help? Yeah.
But,
we have to strive for longevity.
Exactly.
As Q-Tip says.
Yeah. I'm glad you quoted Q-Tip in this interview. And there's the easy way of doing stuff. So why wouldn't you want to do it the easiest way?
Mm-hmm. Some people that I've worked with in the past would shame.
Yes.
They would shame you for making a mistake. But it is funny to make mistakes sometimes, as long as it's not a life or death situation.
Right. Your whole day is full of mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and some you don't have to do anything to fix, and some of them it, takes a second. But I just
it's
can't
refreshing.
Stand when people are uncomfortable with their own mess ups and then they're not nice to you because you witnessed it.
Yeah.
I've started to experience that a little, and you're just like,
because they're so embarrassed.
Well, they just can't accept it in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So instead they react and are nasty to you just as an insecurity, I guess. I don't know what it is, but yeah, instead of looking inwards and being okay with it, they put it outwards and do it nasty.
That's rough, because that means there's such a strong perfectionism in their life that they won't allow themselves to be human and make mistakes. That's hard,
Thank you
isn't
for
it?
saying that. Yeah.
Well, because I notice it with myself. But I said the other day to myself when I was driving, I talk out loud a lot to myself. I said, making mistakes is funny. Because some things are so dumb.
Yeah,
and
you're
so
like,
funny.
How did my mind let me do this? I don't trust my mind.
Yeah.
Right now. You really let me down.
I mean, I know the only reason why, like, just speaking about perfectionism and, I think people who are hired, like in our fields, we're hired because we pay close attention to detail. That's kind of a gift and it's kind of a curse, because we strive for excellence so much that we don't want to fail in some way. But the failing is part of that journey too.
You're gonna fail.
Yeah. And as human, and it might be fun to fail sometimes. I don't know. This is just something I've been thinking about for myself.
I have thought about that a lot too, because one of the other patterns is that the first decision that I make first thing in the morning when I'm at work is usually a mistake.
Really?
So when it happens, I'm like, you knew, so I don't make any like really important decisions first thing in the morning. I'll always start with something else.
Yeah.
And make my mistake if there's a mistake to be made. But, I don't know. It's interesting, like what you need to do to help yourself along. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you get upset from every mistake you make, you're going to be upset because you're going to make mistakes all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I guess if someone tries to make me feel bad about it, I just stop working around them essentially, because I mean, didn't bother me any. If you think I'm an idiot, who cares?
Yeah. Well, that's really good. Well, Emily, thank you for giving me a couple hours of your time today.
Sure.
On the 1st of the new year here, January 1st, 2018. What do you think 2018 holds for you?
I challenge 18 to be better than 17 because this was a pretty good year.
Oh, 18. Got a lot to live up to. You might be bigger than 17, but...
Yeah, when you feel like when you're just so content. How could you be more content? I don't know. I would settle for the same, because it's been really, really magical.
I recently spoke with Emily in preparation for the story, and she confirms her 2018 has been fabulous. She also requests I let you, the listener, know she has not embarked on any travel plans as of yet to Antarctica or to anywhere, but that she is very much uneagerly awaiting the passing of her elderly kitty, Mitzi. Emily has also requested that I play the song Pressure Drop by Toots and the Maytals. Alas, because of copyright and the risk of this episode being flagged and pulled down, I had to pass. But I did include a link to that song in this episode's description, which you can find wherever you're currently listening to this episode. Just scroll down a little bit and it'll be right there. Underneath this, you are hearing Wonder Cycle by Chris Zabriskie off his album Divider. You can find Divider and all his albums at chriszabriskie.com. Lastly, I want to apologize for not getting an episode to you sooner. I had an emergency situation come up, aka I had to move due to a bad roommate, which, as it turns out, was actually pretty traumatic. So between looking for a place, which kind of became like a second full-time job, and then my real job, and then the actual act of moving, I was full up. I did manage to put this episode together though, and I have another one that should come out in the next 2 weeks. And that one is an interview I did with Scott Marvel. We talk about his grandfather's passing when Scott was about 4 years old and how that one singular event has shaped Scott's life. So that'll be out in the next 2 weeks. Thank you to some of you who personally reached out to me to make sure everything was A-okay with me. That means a lot. And happy Thanksgiving. So grateful for all of you and hope that wherever you are, whomever you're with, whether it's with crazy family or crazy friends, I hope you feel peaceful in yourself, rested, nourished, and cherished. This episode of Mostly Minutia was recorded on location in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and at Epiphany Space in Hollywood, California.